Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I'm here with Marcella Gencarelli, who is going to be leading a discussion today. Hi, Marcella.
Hi, Elizabeth, and I'm so excited to be here today. And I'm even more excited to introduce Susan Ascher of the Ascher Group. And I'm going to just highlight a little bit of I'm going to modify the title of your book. It's going to say, Dude, seriously, today it really is all about you.
I do have a question before we get started. Do I have to wear a mask? Anyway, yes, thank you so much for having me, both of you. That first book that I wrote is really it. Now I sort of brand it as a book on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is actually nothing more when you boil it down to a couple of things: treating the people the way you would like to be treated, or treating people the way they would like to be treated, or manners, and just really having the sensibility to read people, to read their emotions, to know when someone's having a down day, to be able to give somebody credit when credit is due and not take all the credit yourself, as many leaders do, as we know. So this book was written because I really wanted to highlight the importance of treating people well. It's we talk about, so many people talk about kindness and being good, and there's a lot of that in the world. That's not to minimize it, but it's something that, in my view, it's so much easier to hold the door for someone, to say thank you to someone, to send a little note to someone when you know they've had something happen that brought them down. And we've forgotten that in the chaos and the noise of the internet. We have forgotten that we're still humans. I do think we're figuring it out now in the pandemic, because I don't know about you. I mean, I love seeing you. This is a special event to me, but seeing a cluster of people over and over and over again on Zoom, I get my energy from actually being with people, being next to people. So, but again, back to that first book, I cover everything from simple things like, please, thank you, I'm sorry. I mean, those are expressions we don't hear. I cringe when I'm in a restaurant with a friend and she turns to the waiter and says, I'll have a cup of coffee, instead of, may I please have a cup of coffee. I mean, it's just, so we're really dumbing down a lot. And what I do in the leadership and executive and career coaching that I do is to really make people aware that this is a great differentiator. When you know how to treat people well, you stand out from the herd.
That's a really, really good point. And that really actually leads right to the next question, which is, apart from your business, what are you passionate about?
There aren't a lot of silly questions, but well, you know me, so the audience doesn't know me, but I'm absolutely passionate about golf. I am the biggest golf nut, and I turned my passion for golf into a business event, which I do, called Course Connections, and it's not for women only, it's for people. It's for men, women, anybody. So it's a very fun event. I play entirely too much golf. But the good news is that, I mean, people do know that, but they don't really know that I can burn the midnight oil and get done what I need to do, because I steal those hours, because that's really my happy place, is when I'm playing golf. My other passions are, I love fly fishing. I just adore it. And favorite place is Beaver Creek, Colorado, on the Eagle River. And I, like you, we're in the same class. I love this new Yoga Lattes thing. Shout out to Nancy
Yes.
Tina and Transform Yoga for putting these wonderful Zooms together, which take a part of yoga and a part of Pilates and really strengthen the core. And we get to do it in our own home. So no excuse not to be there. So that's what I do. And I love people. I love being with people. I love socializing. I love cooking. I love baking. I love making parties. So this is a big problem for me now in the pandemic. I love getting people together. I love networking. I love introducing people, connecting people like you. You do that very well, Marcella. We're both big on that. So I'm passionate about fun. And I will say that one of my axioms is that have a little bit of fun every day, whatever that means. I never have a day go by without something that was fun, whether it's having a drink with someone or taking a walk or playing golf or seeing a friend or calling. every day has to have a little bit of fun in it. So I would, it's something that we have to carve out in our lives, and we shouldn't be too busy for that, because life is it's tough. So we've got to make space for ourselves, take care of ourselves, and do things that make us happy.
That's very, very important. And it's interesting how you bring that up, because I would think, and maybe you can elaborate on this, that all of those different attributes and all your different interests probably absolutely influence you as a coach. So could you give us some pointers on what makes a good coach?
What differentiates me is I have a sense of humor. I have never, and that, I have never lost my sense of humor. And throughout the entire pandemic, it's something I live by. It's just, life is tough enough. We got to find some fun, and we got to find some humor in things. It can be occasionally self-deprecating, never making fun of other people, but making fun of a situation. I always say to my clients, if you're looking for a coach that's going to give you charts and graphs and modules, and whether it's an executive coach, whether it's a C-level player, which I coach a lot of those folks, men and women, people of different cultures. And we really have to understand that it's all about the individual. So plucking something off a shelf and saying, this program is for you. It's going to work for you, and it's going to work for Elizabeth, and it's going to work for Tom. I don't believe in that. Every individual is unique. So I work with a consultant who puts together an assessment for, depending upon the type of person that I'm coaching, whether it's a career coach or an executive coach, a leadership coaching experience. And really, because what they tell me and what their superior tells me is not usually what comes out in the assessment. In other words, some of those things come out from the superior, some of them come out from the person, but what really comes out is the truth. So we start with that. And from there, I have that person talk to me and curate with me 3, 4, 5 things that they want to work on. And sometimes it's as simple as listening. I have many, many clients. The top thing that they're working on is becoming a better listener. And we all know that, because when we talk to someone, we just can't, they're talking and we almost can't wait to say what we want to say, and many people talk over other people. So I'm using that as an example, but there are many things. Self-confidence might be something. Somebody else might be working on getting a new job. It really runs the gamut from high to low, but really curating a program specifically tailored to the individual that I'm working with, and not taking something canned off the shelf. That's what makes me different. And I want it to be fun. I want it to be fun. And as you know, I often refer to myself as the Judge Judy of coaching. And why I say that is because if people start dwindling in what they're supposed to be doing, if I'm trying to hold them accountable, and the Judge Judy comes out, and it's like, let's get to the point, let's get this done, because they're not going to be like Woody Allen on a sofa for the next 3 years being coached. We want to try and fix or change the behaviors that are holding them back in being super successful.
What I've gathered from you, and what your book is about too, is you really look at the emotional intelligence quotient, right? So you're not just telling them, make a list every day and check it off so you can be more productive. You're going to the things that they don't know are holding them back, that they're doing wrong, that affects other people negatively because they don't have the emotional intelligence thing.
It's the soft skills. So I'm working now with a COO of a cloud company, also from a different culture. And what I'm really, the first thing when he was interviewing me is the first thing I said to him, look, I am not a technologist. I am not the person that's going to coach you on how to build the best cloud. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I am going to make you the best leader. I am going to make you aware of the people that work for you and how important it is to really recognize them, to make them part of the team, to compliment them. And of course, there are times that we have to sit down and coach them on something that they may have to change. And how do we do that? Because I always say, the tone makes the music. This is an expression that my mother used to use. So I can say anything to you, but how do I say it? And I'll be coaching a group of people, and I'll take 4 or 5 people, and I'll tell them each the word thank you, to say it 5 different ways. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. So how you say it is what the perception becomes then the reality. And I think and that's very, very important, because we have to give good news, and we have to give sometimes bad news. It's not good to give no news. We don't want to give no news to our people. We want to always be truthful with them, but we want to say it in such a way that it actually makes something change and makes a behavior change if we can.
Really get to the heart
Of the matter. But it's funny because people, they think, oh, soft skills, it's not a big deal. It's the biggest deal when you look at what you would consider. I always ask people, who do you consider to be the greatest leader in your mind? Who's the greatest leader in your lifetime that you've known? And, I get all different kinds of answers. Sometimes it's someone they've worked for. Sometimes it's someone in a nonprofit. Sometimes it's a former president. Sometimes it could be it could be anybody. And then I ask them why. And when that why comes out, that tells me a lot about what we have to work on in our coaching, what they look up to, what they think is important. Maybe and I really haven't had that where they've thought someone's a great leader and the person was horrible. I really haven't had that, because every leader, whether we like them or not, whether we're in their political party or not, every leader has some quality somewhere. Okay. But for the most part, I find that I sort of get the same answers a lot. John F. Kennedy is an answer I get a lot, as is Ronald Reagan. 2 people from diverse sides of the coin, and I look at them and I say, tell me why. And then they tell me why. They tell me because they're engaging, because they're empowering, because they're great orators, because they're great listeners, all the things that we want to become. And sometimes it's difficult for people to work on that. It's hard. We get into habits. So what you do as a great coach is you build awareness. Once somebody said to me, do you really change people? And I say, over time, they can make these changes. But what's important is that they are aware, so they catch themselves. And like any habit, they may have to catch themselves 7, 8, 10 times before they actually do start listening, do start complimenting, do start recognizing. They catch themselves, and that's how it works.
So Susan, I know you work with a lot of corporate groups, and I know that corporate really needs what you do.
Yeah, they do.
Who do you typically work with besides corporate, or would it be the corporate management that comes and find you? Do people come to you individually because they know they need the work?
People definitely come to me individually, because many times the corporation, it really depends. It runs the gamut. Sometimes the corporation will take a manager who they really want to, groom for a different position. And they'll say, even though they're a manager now, we see them, in the org chart as someone who we want to push ahead. But there are individuals that come to me that say to me, something is holding me back. I am not getting the promotion. I'm not part of the group. I need to become more influential. And that's a big thing, is to become an influencer, forget Instagram influencing. I'm talking about within an organization, so that your voice is heard. And so people recognize sometimes that there is something holding them back, and the company is not going to pay for a coach for every single employee. So this goes back to any small business owner who's ever had a coach, and I've had them over the years, because you're not a rock by itself. You're not an island. If you think as a CEO of your own company that you know everything and nobody can help you, well, I'm not saying that you're not going to make it, but there's always a bar that's higher than where you are. So it's a question of, some people truly want to invest in themselves. They truly want to explore. And, my coach said to me many years ago, you're not a therapist. But someone recently called me a business therapist, meaning that when you're a CEO of a small to mid-sized company, who can you talk to? You can talk to your spouse or your partner. That's true. You can talk to your friends. You should not be talking to your employees about things that might be concerning you, things that you might, until you figured them out, you don't, or just personal things that I do. A lot of personal things come up in coaching. While it's business driven, your life and your business, it's intertwined. So I think that the people who do come to me, and it is largely, it could be a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, but for those people, I have masterminds that I run, and those are groups where we have one person in a hot seat every single week. Every single person sits and tells us what's going well, what's going poorly, what do you need help, and then it's usually a group of 6 people. It's a year-long program, and everybody chimes in. Now, there are bigger groups and name brands that do that sort of a thing, but for smaller businesses and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, they're not going to go to a large branded kind of coaching, mentoring mastermind. They want to be with like-minded people. So that's a sweet spot for me, because I know there's a great need for it. And many of those people may be solopreneurs or startup people now, but they want, and this from your business, but they want to go places. And, hey, you can do it on your own. It just might take a really long time. If you have someone who's coaching you, who's been there and done that, you might get where you are a little bit quicker. And if you get there a little bit quicker, you'll make money a little bit faster. You'll be more profitable. You'll be happier. You'll be growing. And that's sort of the name of that.
Right. And masterminds have been around for a while for a reason, because they're groups holding each other accountable and giving each other support. And they're very popular, but they work for a lot of people. So your mastermind group sounds really good.
Parent is raising a child, right? I mean, if you hear your mother tell you to say thank you, 10 times, every time you forget to say thank you, eventually you're going to say thank you because you just don't want to hear it anymore. And so coaching is a little bit like that too. If the person is not a good listener and you're working on that, and they even are interrupting you when you in terms of what you're saying to them, after a while they're going to start listening, because it's just not fun to you have to know that you're there to learn something. And to invest in yourself. I would say those are the 2 big things.
Wonderful advice.
And some people are very good at holding themselves accountable, but a lot of people are not. So, and a lot of people need that encouragement. I'm working with someone right now on a career coaching assignment. She had, from day one she got referred to me from someone that she worked with. From day one, she had so much negative speak. And we've been together a couple of months now, and all of a sudden this person, and the doors are opening and things are changing. So, I mean, it sounds a little bit, I'm spiritual, but I'm not a spiritual coach. But, if you keep telling yourself nothing's going to happen and you're never going to find a job, and well, maybe you do need someone to help you through that, to say, hey, listen, did you ever think of this? Did you ever look at that? What about this? What about that skill? What about that person? Making that connection. A lot of people, they can't, and especially corporate people, it's very hard because, companies, and this is no disrespect to companies, but they do want to keep people in a cocoon. And for that, they have wonderful benefits. They have they do wonderful things for people. The problem is that people in the corporate world then have a very different view of the world than someone who's had to, start on their own in a business, or be on their own, or be an entrepreneur, or run a small business. Very different. So, but I like both. So I like both, working with both. I would be, I think, very bored just working with one type of person. That's my personality. I mean, certain coaches, they have a paradigm that is, straight and narrow, and that's great. I think it's because I was a CEO. I think it's because I, back in the day, did look for a job. I knew what had to be done. When I was in the search business, I had to prep people, resumes, LinkedIn. So I like to keep fresh in all those areas. I would get bored doing the same thing over and over again. That's me personally.
Well, that brings up another question for me. So how long have you been a coach, and do you know about how many people you've helped so far?
Okay, so I started coaching in, I believe it was 2011, 2010. So maybe going on 10 years. How many? Well, I can tell you the first coaching, and this is another thing for entrepreneurs or people starting a business. I had my old business card, I had no website, and I was starting the coaching business. I actually introduced, talk about networking, I was introducing someone to a very large hospital system, and because she wanted some kind of outplacement work from them. She never got anything. They then turned to me and asked me what I did, and I told them, and I said I had written my first book, and that my coaching practice was, in full swing. About a week later, I was on my way to vacation, and my then BlackBerry popped up with an email from the person I met saying they had 400 people that they wanted to coach around the first book, because in that particular field, just like in hotels, hospitals get scored after a patient leaves, and their scores, they're called Prascani scores. They were very, very low. And here's an example of just do it, right? So they asked, what would I charge? I had no clue. They asked me, what would I do? I had an idea of what I would do. And I wrote my first program, and 400, that was my first coaching, really big gig for 400 people across the hospital. It was so fun. And the scores went up 30%. I saw it. They sent it to me. So people out there, yes, you do need a website at some point, but you don't need a website to get your first gig or your first assignment or your first project. What you need is to be clear on how you can help someone, and be clear on what they need, and also be clear that they're willing to invest in themselves or in their company so that you can help them. But yeah, I would say, it's got to be thousands now, Elizabeth. It's got to be millions. I don't think so. I'm not Marshall Goldsmith, but definitely thousands. Definitely.
Impressive. So if somebody has just lost their job, can you help them kind of try to find their way to the next project?
Oh, sure. And here's the thing too, that it's really, the job search is so different today than it was, even 10 years ago. The LinkedIn has to be really clipped. And if the LinkedIn looks good and the URL looks good and the contact information is on there and the accomplishments it's all about accomplishments today. And it's all about metrics and letting companies know that you increased something by a certain percentage, or decreased, or made an efficiency, or sales, revenues, whatever. It's not just responsible for. That's completely outdated. When I see that on a resume, I'm like, this is 2020 now. So, and then the most really beyond those two things, we on behavioral questions and leadership questions. Those are the two key things. And it doesn't matter if you are a supervisor or you're a C-level person. This is what companies are looking for. They're looking for what behaviors that you exhibited in your current organization will translate to their organization, to their culture. And so they'll ask you questions like, if you've disagreed with your boss on something, and you're trying to convince them, and so how do you do that? And what if the outcome is not the one that you want? How do you handle that? Those are the kinds of questions. Leadership questions could be, for a high-level person, tell me about your leadership style. You have to be, this is not just get up, look good in a suit and Zoom or walk into an office. These are very curated questions, and they're asked over and over again. So those are the things that I really work very hard on. And then, being camera ready, knowing that you're going to be on Zoom. No dogs, no children, no running water. You're there as a professional, and you're dressed properly, and you really want to stand out. And you have this very short amount of time to do that. You have to really be prepared, and the answers have to be prepared, and the research on not only the job, but on the company. That's really, really important, so that, again, you stand out. And finally, and I'll give this little tip to anyone who is looking for a job, what you want, the company asks you all these questions. I have 10 essential questions, but the one that I want everyone to ask at the end of the interview is, how will you measure my performance in the first 90 days?
That's a good one.
And let me tell you something, a lot of times the interviewer can't answer that, so they're not prepared. Yeah. So you want to know when you go in there, it's not just, getting used to the different, because first of all, you're doing everything on Zoom now. So it's really, really important. What are my projects going to be? What outcomes are you looking for in the first 90 days? Because you want them to know that you're not going to wait 6 months to make something happen. You want to make something happen for them from the minute that you get in there, and that's how you're going to stand out.
In talking about the Zoom a little bit, it's good that you bring that up because when quarantine first started and a lot of people were new to Zoom, like the kind of things you were talking about with the dogs and the kids and the messy kitchen in the back and stuff, that was okay because it was a temporary situation. Well, it's not a temporary situation anymore.
No.
So you better get, you have a nice background. Marcella has a nice background. I have my step and repeat. And we've all positioned ourselves specifically to be in the camera shot. So those are the kind of things that people need to learn from you too, if they're going to do a LinkedIn interview video.
I was speaking on one of your events, I believe at the bank, and you might remember there was someone making a sandwich at her desk or in the kitchen, or do you remember?
Oh my gosh, we saw everything. Yes, I remember.
But I think to Elizabeth's point, it's getting better. I mean, people are a little bit more mindful, but not always. And sometimes I'll see people on a group Zoom, and someone will get up and give their dog a treat. I mean, I'm still on many levels a traditionalist when it comes to that, because you really can't go wrong doing the right thing. I know that society is a little more lax on some of these things, but you can't go wrong in doing the right thing.
Susan, right now, I want to just summarize a little bit because I think we've said a lot. You're helping people position themselves to find their next job or maybe start their own next company. You're helping people in corporate figure out how to move to the next level. And you're also helping people really heavily on leadership and emotional intelligence skills. Is that pretty much it?
And all of those people need that, whether they're solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, looking for a job, leaders, CEOs, they all need that. It's not just categorically for one particular person. So yes, really raising the bar in overall their emotional intelligence, which is getting to the next level. Again, I just see it. The people that write the little thank you note or the little email or whatever it might be, the people that go out of their way, the people that really care. Those are the great leaders, and those are the people that are going to get ahead, and the people that want to help other people. And who was it? Zig Ziglar. You will get, it's actually on my auto signature, you will get everything you want in life if you help other people get what they want.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a phenomenal way to close.
So how do people find you? Yes, how do people find you?
People can find me on my website, susanascher.com. So it's my name, and Ascher is ASCHER, susanascher.com. They can write to me, susan@susanascher.com, and I'm going to give them my cell phone if they want to text me, if they want to call me. That's another thing. I think that I really am probably too much, but I love being available because I just love helping people. So my cell is 973-919-8180. Probably won't answer you at 2 a.m, but probably will answer you anytime from the crack of dawn till 10 at night. So I'd love to hear and help anybody out there that needs it. And if nothing more than for a consultation, I always do a free consultation for 30 minutes to figure out where you are, where you want to be, what's the gap, and how do we fill it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Ladies, thank you so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. And stay healthy, stay well, and we'll see you soon.